Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Kansas City Star article. Judge in Kansas man's January case wants more info on video given Tucker Carlson others. This is about a January defendant that has told the judge, hey, I want this information for discovery, because it could be exculpatory evidence. I want the closed-circuit television information, video, tapes. I want that to prove that he was, so this defendant was apparently coerced or pushed into the building by an official there. So he wants to prove that. He wants to be able to prove that, and he cannot prove that. A lot of the defendants couldn't prove a lot of their defense or very bizarre occurrences that took place that day. So, according to Democrats and media, this was an example of Trump and his mindless supporters trying to take over democracy. The truth is very different. Closed-circuit CCTV videos. The judge said he wanted a sworn declaration from police within 2 weeks, quote, as to exactly what all those things mean and whether there's been any restrictions whatsoever as to what the press can do with those CCTV videos once they receive them. So the judge wants a lot more information, especially since next week Tucker Carlson has stated either yesterday that he promises to release parts of the footage next week. This is going to give the entire picture for defendants to defend themselves. Okay, so there are still people on trial. The thing is, one person already was acquitted because the video footage that he had access to, and it's interesting, that defendant had access to video footage, so it could have been maybe footage that somebody around him was taking. So a lot of the people just didn't have friends or family that took videos. Some people did. One of the people that had access to video showing an officer allowing him into the building was acquitted. So you already have one person acquitted. So you go, if you listen to Democrats and media, they focus only on the chaotic mayhem, which I condemn. That's bad. Very bad. Okay, I condemn that. I also condemn $1 to $2 billion in property damage and 19 lives lost, according to Wikipedia, and 14,000 arrests that summer. I support why people demonstrated peacefully that summer. I support that cause. But I don't understand how you can delineate or how you can differentiate between an entire summer of curfews in every major city where there's 14,000 people arrested and $1 to $2 billion in property damage in an entire summer, how Kinzinger, Cheney, Democrats, media can focus on one day, which I condemn as well, and completely exonerate, because they support, as do I, the underlying cause for why people peacefully demonstrated. But how do you ignore the $1 to $2 billion in property damage? How do you ignore that? There were federal buildings. There was chaos and mayhem in D.C. also. Okay, that forced President Trump to basically, they were trying to make fun of him. They're saying, oh, he ran from. It's like, well, no, there was a chaotic event. Then they lied about him clearing Lafayette Square for a photo op. That wasn't true. That never happened. And they kept saying, and it was like, it wasn't for the photo op. The square was supposed to have been cleared for something completely different, but they lied about that. And of course, the fact check, eventually, after enough people were deceived and duped, finally admitted, oh yeah, well, that's right. Well, it wasn't just for a photo op. And churches were burnt, torched, but the media didn't say anything. They didn't care. CNN said fiery but mostly peaceful, when you had a reporter in front of a building set in flames. So, again, I support the underlying cause of why people demonstrated that summer, but how do you just say, well, you know what, political mayhem and chaos is okay if the cause is good? If there's a book called In Defense of that type of thing, okay? They even wrote In Defense of that type of thing. So hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to give you the aggregate viewpoint to my new Patreons. Thank you. Your support via Patreon is so, so important, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to support my work via Patreon, the link is below. Your support is greatly appreciated. The super thanks is below next to the like and the share buttons. And go to hagoodman.com to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, and other publications, and become part of a newsletter there. But ladies and gentlemen, the footage that's going to be released is not... So, what happened that day is not a concerted effort, an organized plot to overthrow the country by Trump. This is the viewpoint of individuals who've completely lost rational thought. There are people who are apoplectic, hysterical in terms of their rage and anger towards Trump. For what exactly, aside from his personality? We had record low poverty under Trump in 2019. We had record low poverty, according to CNN, in 2019 under Trump. We had a much better foreign policy. There wasn't an invasion in Europe. It's really interesting how, because of the man's personality, and now we're talking about, you know what being leaked from you-know-where, a facility in you-know-where, and it's like Trump was saying this. So many things have taken place the past 4 years where Trump said, hey, listen, market's going to tank, there's going to be an invasion, we're going to have a terrible foreign policy, yeah, this came from there, and they didn't want to listen. Nobody would listen. It's to the point now if Trump said, drink water, eat vitamins, eat vegetables, exercise, people would say, no, Trump said it, I can't do that. So, his policies were much better. We had record highs in household median income with Trump. So, well, what was there not to like with Trump other than the media meltdown? It's interesting. The meltdown would make more sense with what's going on today with foreign policy. We're 90 seconds to midnight, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. We're closer than ever to nuclear confrontation and annihilation, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. And you talk about people who vote against their interests. Okay, many of those scientists probably voted for Biden. Well, we were at 90 seconds to midnight with Trump. We were 90 seconds to midnight 3 years going into Biden's third year. Okay? And so they made January, that was a terrible, terrible day, but they focused on that because they ran out of steam with Trump-Russia. So everybody knows now that was an absurd hoax and fantasy conjured up by Democrats and intel agents that sided with the Democratic Party. Trump never worked with the Kremlin. That was, of course, a lie that nobody believed, that most people didn't believe at MSNBC or CNN. Interestingly enough, they make a big deal that people at Fox didn't believe Trump's claims or lies. And so they don't hold themselves to the same standards. It's really it's not hilarious. It's amusing and a very pathetic, and it's a very bad state of affairs we have. And you have never Trump Republicans that completely undermine Paul Ryan, Kinzinger. They know that they will never again control the Republican Party. Mitt Romney, they will never again control. It will never happen. You don't go from a populist political party to a traditional Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld train wreck. Speaking of, that's taking place during Biden's administration also. And no amount of regulation could have prevented that. So, or no specific regulations that they point to. Like, one of the ladies at The View said, oh yeah, you voted for this. Like, no, nobody voted for this. This was a terrible situation. Terrible. Could have been also not just an accident, but that's another story. You had a spy balloon right above, immediately before the wreck. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. The The exculpatory evidence is there in the discovery for this court case. Hopefully, once Tucker Carlson next week releases the video footage, the defendants that are still on trial or awaiting trial will be able to defend themselves and show the world, hey, you know what? They weren't there to, overthrow the country. That is the most mindless talking point. Because you see people, one leaked video is that they were allowed anyway. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now.